Welcome to the school where we talk about the business of design and the design of business. I'm Jose Cavalier. This is Chris Doe.
Hey, Jose. I
Chris.
just want to comment. You guys can see right now, based on popular demand and user feedback, we've changed the set. We're going to change the look. Hope you like it. If you don't, pretend like you do, or just let us know what you really think.
No, let us know if you like it.
Well, I would just
pretend
mess
they
around.
like it. Yeah, I love the white. Hey, change is good.
Well, you haven't seen the whole thing that it's going to go through. It's transformation.
You are the executive producer.
Thank you.
I trust your taste.
Thank you. What are we talking about today, Jose?
Closing sales. So last week we left you with, hey, let's talk about closing sales, something that everybody really needs to know, the secrets of closing a sale. Look, let's just share our experiences.
Okay, great. What does that mean in the web world, closing a sales?
So
I hear that term a lot.
Closing a sale is where you get a verbal agreement that you're going to be given the work.
Okay.
Right? In your business, I think they call it award the
That's
job.
what we call it.
In our case, we call it close the contract. You know, my CFO used to say, no, the verbal is not enough. You want the contract, and that's not even enough. You want the payment, and you want it to be closed. That's closing. But let's talk about it to the point to where there's an agreement to start the work.
Okay.
I personally believe that the contract has to be signed for it to really be closed, but that's my point of view.
So in motion, a verbal agreement is plenty fine for us. And unless there's a shoot, we need to get 50% up front. Then when we see the check, we're ready to shoot. So for us, the magic phrase that we're listening for is the job is awarded. Now, a lot of people get their hopes up when the clients say something like, you're the agency recommend, we love you guys, in all likelihood this is going to come through. All those things are great, and it's great to hear. It's nice to be the agency recommend. That means that of the number of contractors that are bidding on the job, they're the one that they're going to recommend you to their client. But the client ultimately has the final decision, right? So when we hear on the phone, we are awarding the job to you, that's the phrase that pays.
Got you. So let me ask you a question. I mean, in terms of, have you ever had an occasion where they said we're awarding the job to you, but then it gets reversed?
I don't think so, but jobs have died, and in that case, there is a kill fee clause. Once they say it's verbally binding.
Does it have to be in writing, like in an email, or can it be verbal?
So far, it's been verbal.
Wow.
So we start, when they say the job
It's
is awarded,
you start.
we book the people. It's a commitment from them that everything's happening.
And
So-
it's in a small
so, like,
ecosystem, meaning that you have producers and people you're working with that there's a lot of trust. If they say that and they back out, they're going to look bad, and ultimately they don't want that either.
It's verbally binding.
Yeah.
It really is. And so the real question is, if that happens, then are you going to fight your client tooth and nail to get all of the job, or what's reasonable? And I think this is like up to you and how equitable the deal is for everybody involved, right? So, for example, if the job awards for $100,000 and 2 days into it, they're saying the client's totally changed their mind, what can we do here? I would work with them. I would say, let me cover my costs. Maybe it's a 25% kill fee. That's usually in our contract. So the bid that's sent out will usually say something upon award, here's the kill fee.
I get that. I mean, to me, it sounds a little too casual, and I'm
It
uncomfortable
probably is.
with it.
Yeah, in the business world, that would be considered too casual.
And then here's why. I mean, the challenge though on the website or in the digital side of things is that sometimes there's multiple vendors on both sides, on both type of projects. But the main thing is actually the scope and the agreement on what is getting built. And just today on the School Pro, I was telling everyone the truth about what it is that it means when you actually close a project and what are the right ways of closing structurally so that you don't go into scope creep. So scope creep is very common on the website and very painful, equally common on motion side.
Yeah.
It happens on both sides, equally common in advertising.
It happens.
You're remodeling your kitchen, it happens. So what I learned over the years is that the entire process, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about the entire process of sales as a whole. And here's something for our audience. The language sometimes is a little bit confusing, and lead gen and closing a sale and all this stuff is like abstract. Let's make it really concrete.
Okay.
Let's
sounds
talk
good.
about.
You're starting to sound like me now.
Yeah, it's rubbing off. So what is it that you do in order to get known, aside from your rep, so that people say, hey, I really like that agency.
Okay.
Let's use that.
Before we move on to the sales process, are we going to come back to closing the sale? 'Cause
Yes.
we didn't really talk about closing the
I
sale.
want to relate it to here's
Okay.
what happened here, here's what happened here, now here's how you close it.
Okay. So I just want to make just a point of clarification. We haven't actually talked about closing the sale. Mostly what
Not
we've been
yet.
talking about is how the job is awarded.
Yes.
That's it. Okay. So I'm going to make a note here.
We're going to
Great.
get to techniques.
Let's do it. So that was the broad opening topic, and now we're going to dive in and probably do it probably in more chronological order now, right? So sales process. Let me share with you how it kind of works, or how it's worked in the past in the motion industry. We have sales reps, and we have sales reps, as I mentioned before in our previous show together, that sales reps divide the country up into regions, and they represent you in that area for a very specific thing. They represent you generally for commercial work or broadcast design work, and they're different reps for different industries. So if a job comes to you, whether or not the rep has had an active hand in it or not, they take a percentage of the job. So it's going to be anywhere between, say, 6 and 15%, whatever deal that you can cut. That's typically how the work comes in. They have the relationships with agencies. They're keeping their kind of ear for possible jobs, and it's that gets you in the door. Now, the thing that's changed a lot is companies like us, we're working with our reps, but we're also working in channels outside of what you consider normal advertising. So we're working with event producers, like say for a concert or a live venue kind of thing.
Yep.
We're talking to video game companies where our sales reps aren't going out. The one thing that we realize is that if we depend on our sales reps to get us work, it's kind of like we're victims of our own circumstance. We want to take some of that process in ourselves to make sure we have some kind of control over our own destinies. How does, okay, go ahead, sorry.
So what I was going to respond to that is that you're saying that, as the industry's evolving, there's less dependency on the reps intermediating between the ad agencies and you, but now going out to a broader subset of types of jobs, concerts, there's industrial video for web.
I'm building apps.
There's a bunch of building apps.
Games.
And we're diversified, and we're going through that process together.
Right.
So recently, Blind Labs and Blind, we're beginning to do a much broader subset of sales. We're positioning the company. There's a lot of things that we're doing, all here live in front of you guys, and on the interwebs and Facebook. And there's actually the Twitter right there if you guys want to tweet us and individually, etc.
Where is it? Is it
right here somewhere?
Okay,
yeah,
so.
there.
Okay.
All right. So for the website, so I'll walk you through the sales process overall. You have to make some noise. I remember having big parties with the people around me, and obviously I'm a lot more obnoxious than you, but with the people that I knew. So I'll give you an example. We did a party in 2005. 2005. 95 was a little bit too far away. Where we, in partnership with Art Center and in partnership with the conference, it was like a huge party in our space in downtown. And a lot of different people came. And the people go away saying, wow, that was really cool, and then you're on top of mind. So a woman at Otis, who you know actually, told a colleague, who told her husband, who told Thomas Keller about us, who then called us, and we got a job awarded. So all those things are really lead generation. This people knowing about you.
Okay.
Lead generation basically is, hey, let's get people who are interested in working with you. That's a lead, a potential customer. So then when it comes to, they call and they say, here's what I need. In the web world is what we call solutions-based selling. What do you need? I'm keeping on doing this, like that's how you're really doing it, but you're doing it on a conference call or you're doing it in person. Mr. Client, what is it that you have? What's the problem? It's like a doctor. Well, we really need to do X, Y, Z. We need to build a website, or we need to do a campaign, a channel campaign, video, website, app, all this kind of stuff for X brand. Great. Tell us a little bit more about your target audience. Oh, it's targeted for this, but what are your business goals with it? We do that during the sales process. And sometimes we get up and we outline the whole solution together on the whiteboard and like something like this. And they're like, yes, that's exactly what we need. At that point, we're competing against 2 or 3 other people, usually just 3. And we've already been qualified if we're in the conference room. So the closing, getting it back to the closing, here's how I sometimes do it.
You're skipping a step, though.
What is the step I'm skipping?
I think you're missing a whole bunch of steps.
The proposals? Oh, yeah, but I'm illustrating the point.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
What steps am I missing?
You were talking about the initial kind of sales outreach, lead gen. You're skipping the whole bidding process, putting the deck together, and then...
Right.
And then,
no, but
then
I'm not.
Okay.
Here, let bear with me here. I'm not skipping that. I haven't gotten to that yet. That initial consultative meeting or call, after that, one of the things that I asked during that is what are they looking for in a partner? So remember I talked about, hey, I want to tell everyone the magic question. So what I ask is, if the sky opens and your deity of choice gives you, very non-denominational, and your deity of choice gives you the perfect partner to do this job. And I don't like the word job, by the way. I hate the word job.
But you're the one using it.
No, but when I was working with Seth, in the emotion industry, they use job. I want to vanquish the word job because you want a relationship and you want you want an account, which is what advertising people use.
Right.
The problem with job is that it's finite. It's one time.
It's a one-off.
It's a one-off. So changing the whole thing to being about more a relationship or an account is even better. Account is even, I think, antiquated. It sounds very Donald Draper. Relationship. So after I asked that question, what are you looking for a partner? Here's what usually happens in a Here's what usually happens in a web scenario. Well, we're looking for somebody who understands our brand. We're looking for somebody who can explain to us the technology. It's what I called spurn lover syndrome. They've done web projects with other people and they've gotten burned because the project didn't go well, because the scope got out of hand, because the people on the other side were very technical and said, no, we can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. They had never really worked with a consultative type person. And this varies. There are clients who are very experienced and who have had great experiences, especially now, much more sophisticated clients, that's who you want. But then there are also clients who are new to it. Maybe a young project manager at a company you're talking about, they haven't had a positive experience. So you need to ask, what are they looking for in a relationship? And they'll tell you. Somebody who understands us, somebody who will explain the technology to us and doesn't speak in gobbledygook, and somebody who really is able to manage the scope and the process for us. And that's it. So when you come back in the proposal, you say, we are somebody who can manage the process for you, who can define and understand your strategy, and we're really nice and we don't talk in gobbledygook. And that's the proposal.
But just saying it, don't you need proof? Don't you need to be able to back it up? Because everybody will say we're really nice to work with.
Case studies and testimonials.
Speak human, And
here's a number of 3 clients. Call them. We always did that with the big. Anything above 100,000, they talk to clients.
Okay. So it's not just about listening to it and parroting it back. You actually have the content to back it up.
That is correct.
Okay. So what you described to me sounds like, from the beginning of this conversation, to be a more passive way of doing sales or lead generation, which is you hold an event, they come to you. The way I was describing it's more of an active. You come to them, you find a target, someone that you'd like to work with, a brand you admire, people that you like or creative you've seen and just want to be a part of, and we go to them.
We do that.
Is that the same or is it different?
It's the same. And I just finished explaining this in the School Pro. Identify exactly who you want to work for and message to them, here's what we do for you, and then go through those channels and reach out to those people. But I think it's more consultative. It's a little less pitchy. I don't like to pitch. For big accounts, you have to, right? When there's a big reward. But I don't like to pitch with creative. I want to prove that our past experience creative. I like to sell like a consulting firm, not like a creative firm. Does that make sense?
Explain the difference now.
The difference is that you're looking at a big problem that you're trying to solve, and you're not selling the creative, you're selling the solution to the problem.
How's that different? Because a lot of creative people would say, I am solving the problem.
I'll give you an example. Right now, a project that we just closed verbally, at least, for Blind Labs, just fresh off the plane. The problem really wasn't the creative. They knew that we could deliver amazing creative. There's no question about that. We have already been working and helping them out, at a consultative level and at a creative, one-off little projects.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was really more a process and a who's in control of the process issue. That's all consultative. That has nothing to do with the creative.
So you're selling the process and not the end result?
Yeah.
Okay.
They believed that we can do it, and it was to align all the partners to understand that there wouldn't be a heavy hand in the control of the process.
And by no means do I want to rein you in. I know there was a comment about me being the riddle into your ADD, and people miss that energy. So I by no means, Jose is his own man. There's no electrical barb attached to him right now.
I'm also super tired from traveling, so
Yes.
I'm going to be calmer.
Okay.
I'll go crazy at some point. That was really
I think the audio is going to peak right there when you said that. Okay, so there's a lot of steps I think you've jumped over, and you said you're going to get to it. And
Okay.
I still...
Fill 'em in.
Well,
Fill them in.
okay, so you're going to get a call for a new job. How you get there is up to you. You can be more passive and have a party targeting certain kinds of people, hopefully to attend. But if you don't know those people, they're not going to come to your party. I'm pretty sure of it. Or you can go directly after them, and you can have an intermediate, an agent, working on your behalf, like what we have is our reps that we work with. Or you can
do both.
You can call them up.
Yeah.
You can go and target them. Now, that's going to be a challenge for a lot of people. It's a challenge for me, too. It's because they're not going to take the call. How do you get through and all that kind of stuff? So we'll save maybe the sales marketing conversation maybe for another day.
Yeah.
But assuming that they call you, they're interested. So when some people don't understand, when a potential client calls you, you've already qualified. You've passed whatever kind of tests that are there. So people, I think, mistake that, and so when they go in, they try and sell again. So there's a famous axiom in sales, right? Don't sell what's been sold. So when you go to a meeting, don't make the conversation about you. Make the conversation about them. What are their needs? And think about what you have that might solve it. And be ready to completely turn your presentation deck upside down, or say, you know what? I love what you're hearing. I didn't bring those materials. You kind of threw me for a curveball. Tell stories, and don't just go off the script if you need to, because you need to relate to them. Okay, it's not about just saying,
100%.
oh, you know what? No matter what, I got a vacuum to sell you. That's what it sounds like, and nobody wants you to sit there and tell them how great you are. And it's funny because I was on a call and somebody was trying to get our business for 45 minutes straight. I kid you not. They just told me all about them. For 45 minutes. So I was thinking, is this the relationship I'm going to have? That I'm looking into the future and kind of projecting it forward. Do I want to sit on a call where I'm like, Bobby, I need to tell you something, and then they just go on for 45 minutes?
I hate that.
I hate that too.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to do yourself, just listen, be quiet. At the very beginning of my career, I was really quiet because I was really shy, and I didn't want to sound stupid. But the funny thing is, by being quiet, a lot of our clients would say to me, it's like, you know what, you're a great listener. So that's part of it. Okay, so now you're going through and you're talking to them on the phone, and they're talking to multiple vendors. It's almost always now in corporate America, they're going to do a triple bid, meaning they're going to bid who they love, who they might like, and who's like a wild card maybe, that is some wild rebel child that might bring some kind of fresh creative, and that's typically how it happens. So now, how do you close the sale? When people say, I closed that piece of new business, to me, when I hear that, it sounds like there's a train moving, and the train's going to either go left, which is a yes, we're going to award you the job, or it's going to go right, and they're going to say no. It's almost like they have the will and the power to take that train, and they weren't sure which way it was going to go, to take it from going no to yes.
Controlling the conversation.
Well, having a hand in it. Okay, so Jose, as you're doing the puppet strings with me, what do you do? What are some techniques that you do, or what are you listening for to help to steer that train towards the yes? You can't bend. You can't break it, but you can influence a little bit.
You can. And there's
Okay,
people who
tell
are
me how.
masterful at
Tell
that,
me how.
and there's people who use it.
Right, the closers.
The closers.
The closers actually do something. We're almost running out of time,
So I'm going to share it with you in a system.
Let's do it.
I'm going to share it with you in a system.
Fire away.
With Scratch It, one of the startups that we're working with, we work together to design their sales system, right? And the gentleman who does the sales comes from Wells Fargo. So he was trained there in what they call values-based selling. And when we started talking, I'm like, whoa, that's how I do it too. So we kind of merged it all together, and it's going to sound familiar to you, so don't make fun of it. The first quadrant is really understanding who the person is and where they're coming from. So it's like, who they are, what they did, where they went to college, any kind of relationship that you can actually relate to them, and understanding that and seeing and finding where there are points of correlation. Oh, you went to design school too? Oh, you went to art center too? All right, we both went to art center. That happens a lot because we usually sell within our college networks.
Okay.
And then you start talking a little bit about that. But then you really go and you shift over to the story relative to the background to why you're even there. So, why are we in the room? Why do you need to do what you need to do?
Are you giving them some kind of contextual narrative?
Yes. So I'm blunt sometimes, like, okay, why are we here? And they'll go, well, okay, here's why you're here. We have this issue, and we need to build this website, or we need to do this campaign, or we really need to figure out our strategy, whatever it is that they have, and they'll start explaining the why. I try to find out what their interest is in it. Okay, forget about the company. but what do you want to understand? What do you want to get into a partner? And that's where I asked the magic question.
Okay.
And then it goes into specifically into how they know, you're in the table, they know that you can deliver the type of work. The final connection point, closing the sale, is about whether you are the right person. I'm not talking about the company. You are the right person. Keep in mind, the work is getting done by people. Once I find out what their needs are specifically to the style in which they would like to work with a partner, like what kind of partner are you looking for, now I'm closer to selling because I can say, oh, let me show you. This is how we're going to work together. Oh, here, I have a capabilities presentation, and it shows the process. I actually don't show our process. Until I understand that, because then I'm going to highlight the parts of the process that address how they want to work together. Guess what? At that point, the closing is like, we really like that. And even in that meeting, you can get that we would like to work with you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, finish your thought. I was giving you the finish.
The finish your thought.
Finish your thought.
If you go through that process, once you've already been qualified to be at the table, the next step is putting a proposal together. Say, we love it, put a proposal together for us, and we're going to look at it. So you put the proposal together, you reinforce why you connected and why you're the right partner, and you add it to the proposal. And at that point, the closing then comes to following up and saying, when are you awarding the job?
Okay, I need to throw this out to the people that are in the studio audience. I forgot to mention who they are. Nicole's here, Andrew, Marco, Ty, and Chris are here. So you guys want to give us a little noise? All right, did you guys just hear what Jose? Whoa. For us, I think what designers do too often is they go into a problem and they're so eager to go and show their creative genius that they don't actually listen and define the problem with the client. So the client will say something like, we just want amazing creative. They're like, great, and they just run out the door. And then they go and make that thing. So we've learned over the years that you really have to arm yourself with the tools and the language to help the clients define the problem. I'm going to speak more about this later on a business series that I'm doing with the AIGA, and I'll go in depth, but you need to understand the problem.
When is that event, by the way?
March 13th?
Something like that.
Something like that.
There'll be a link below.
It's on Thursday. Anyways, so you got to define the problem. So it's hard to score a goal. It's hard to score when you don't know what the goal is.
I agree.
So you got to define the problem, okay? And that means a lot of things to a lot of people, but there are steps that you can actually do to kind of define that with the client. You have to be listening for what we talked about, the unspoken objections. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's something in their mind about why they're not going to pick you, and you don't know it. Okay? For example, maybe you're a small firm and the two other firms are really big. And you know that already, but you don't try to draw it out of them so that you can address it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in their mind, they're thinking, you guys are really creative, but we're a little worried when it hits the fan, you don't have enough people. So you might find a way to ask, how could you ask that question to
What worries you about working together?
Okay, that's one way to do it.
This is how I opened the conversation. Actually, no, the CEO of the company said, here are our objections. So that's when you're selling, in a masterful room where everybody knows the process, they'll start with the objections. I actually voiced the objections in the email that preceded the conversation. I said, I know that you're concerned with this and this. How did I find out? I had dinner. I had dinner with the different stakeholders, and we had dinner and we went through the process.
Well, most of us don't have dinners with our prospective clients beforehand, so.
That's true, but you should.
We can't.
Why not?
They're across the country.
Oh, you mean, no, dude, I'm talking about when the people in the same city.
Oh, okay.
But when
yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that you might want to do is you got to think from their end. Put your head into their space. Like walk in their shoes for a minute here.
Yeah.
They're trying to imagine what it's going to be like to work with you for a month or 2 months in our case in the digital or motion world. In the digital world, it's probably 6 months, maybe longer. They're trying to imagine what that relationship is going to be like, right? So it's like that girl you meet on the first date. You're going through a system, like a little checklist. Is she confident? Is she chewing with her mouth open? Whatever it is that you're going through, you're like, at some point, it's going to be, yes, this is okay to move forward, or no, it's not. Or this is going to be the psycho girlfriend is going to be a stalker, and you don't want that.
You had one of those, I remember.
Right? I don't know. No, I don't. No.
I liked her.
No. That's just a rumor.
Okay.
So, because they're also thinking about, in a big corporate structure, the person who makes a decision to pick you when it goes wrong gets fired.
Yeah.
We talked about that last time.
Right.
They just don't want you to screw up.
Yeah.
So figure out what that is. So let me sum it up what I heard you say. first, and you put it pretty bluntly, and I think that's good. You'll find another way to say it, but the intent is why us?
Yeah.
Get them to say why,
Yeah.
and you'll learn something from that. What worries you about working with us?
Yeah.
You're listening for the unspoken objections.
Yeah.
Okay, and try to put yourself in their own shoes, or
Yeah.
their shoes. I'm sorry.
But let's close now. So let's close the deal here on the
We have to
conversation.
close. We have
How do
5
you
minutes to close.
So here's a
Let's
bunch of
close it.
techniques that I've seen in books
Do it.
that I learned. So I read a book called The Secrets of Closing the Sale. Good title.
What did it say?
There was the contract close. Like, oh, okay, Mr. Client, here's the contract. You didn't ask them for the sale. You just handed them the contract for them to sign it. That's one.
That's a contract close?
Yeah. I don't know what it's called.
That
but
doesn't help.
Call it the
I
contract
don't know about that because we
It's a little too.
too.
Yeah, it's a little too much.
Yeah, let's go on the next
There's
one.
a soft close. Oh, there's the
Ooh.
blunt close.
I wrote soft close.
There's a blunt close. We would like to work with you. Would you like to work with us? That's when you're on a date and you go, would you like to sleep together? That's
That is a hard close.
That's a hard close. There's people who like the hard close. You got to figure that out. Sometimes that doesn't work. Most of the time. There's a soft close.
Oh, the soft close.
What's a soft close to you?
The soft close, and I've heard it done masterfully by one of our reps before when we're on the phone, and they were speaking as a neutral third party,
Yeah.
objective,
Yeah.
right? Because it wasn't the agency and it wasn't us, so they could say something like, the guys over at Blind have worked really hard on this job, and I think they've done everything you've asked for, and if there's something else that you want them to do, they'll do that. And are you guys feeling great about what we've done? So we would be really disappointed if later on it turned out you weren't going to award the job to Blind.
That's the guilt close.
Oh,
That's
and,
a good
and then,
rep.
And then you could see a kind of a certain awkwardness. I can't imagine what they're doing on the other side, but they're
Yeah.
like, you know what? We don't have that power to give it to you, to award it to you, but I think you guys are pretty safe to think that you're going to get the job. Soft close.
I like that. That's a great soft close.
It is.
So I'll share my soft close, and I'm going to share the no competition close, which is my favorite close. The soft close is, for me, very much in the meeting or even right after that, so they're excited. They're like, this sounds really great. So I just basically say, when can we start? And they're like, let's start next week. Let's schedule the meeting. And that's it. I didn't ask for the money. I didn't ask for anything. I've actually already talked about budget during that conversation, so I know they know what we're going to put into the proposal.
Yeah.
And usually that's by segmenting out and having a discovery phase, so they're not committing to the whole project. They're only committing to a week or two of discovery, and that's great because that breaks the risk down substantially on a large project. If it's the $300,000-$500,000 project, that close is really good for them because they're doing $30,000 for a week. Oh, great, we'll spend $30,000. If it goes sideways, not great.
We're almost out of time. I wrote it on the card here. How does this closing sales process go wrong, Jose? Let's
You
lay
close
this
too
out.
soon. You're too eager to close. You look like you want
And you know
the
who
job.
you are.
Yeah, at the launch conference, an entrepreneur, someone in our network, I was kind of making fun of him and trying to point out that he was being really aggressive with the people on the table in terms of wanting to go. It's like, hi, how are you?
Right.
Whoa, let's jump into bed together. I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out. That to me is uncomfortable because it's not smooth. And it's kind of like, it's a downer, right? And people that you do it to is a downer.
Share with me what's happening in your brain. I've had this experience too. When somebody's trying
When
to sell
people's
to
doing
me,
that?
what was going on in your brain? What did you feel? Because if you do that to somebody else, they're going to feel the
I
same
call
way.
it the rapey close. It's like too aggressive. It's like, okay, calm down. No?
I don't.
That's a horrible word
Yeah,
for it.
I think you've already said a couple things wrong leading into this part. But here, I'll tell you something. I was at a party, and somebody came up to me and just just went for the close so fast. They're like, "What are you doing for this? Can I get this business?"
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wait a minute. None of that was about understanding my needs or even setting a value proposition, why things are different.
Right.
And so it was like, I'll just be, polite about it, but I'm not really thinking I'm going to give you the business. I'm not.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have to take time to learn about who the person is, what their needs are, and be very thoughtful about it. There is an overthinking of things too, like you never ask
When
for
you're
the sale.
thinking too much,
You're
yeah.
thinking too much.
Yeah.
But I would say instead of going in for the kill on the, hi, how are you? When can we start? That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
It's a little offensive actually, because it's like, I don't even know you. And then there's about maybe 2 or 3 questions into it, and you can start to probe around and see if there's a fit.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's probably the more natural way to do it.
You know,
That's where it goes
I know we're
wrong.
over time, but this is getting edited. So here's something that's interesting, because even in our relationship, and as we get older, we get smoother, right? So that's good.
You're talking about our relationship?
In our relationship.
Okay.
So for us, you know, we very progressively have like, oh, okay, let's hang out in the, you know, I'm hanging out in the office, you know, incubating the school. Then the next steps, and oh, okay, there's opportunities. Let's pitch together. You know, it's moving at a natural pace. It's
Right.
kind of, don't move things to an unnatural pace. You know, don't push things too far where, you know, just feel it.
Okay.
And you need to be present.
Okay.
That's the issue. You need to be really present. And of course, the younger you are, the less present you are. The older you are, the more present you are. What the no competition close is also what I call the slow. There's a really great book called Sales Dogs, and it describes
Sales what?
Dogs.
Okay, dogs.
It describes different styles of selling in the comparison to dogs. So they have the Chihuahua dog. I'm a Chihuahua Labrador, and that is a very technical person who knows their craft. So me, digital process.
Before you go down this whole dog story,
Yeah.
are you going to bring
I'm
it
gonna
back?
bring it home.
Okay, because
Then there's the Labrador, which is a faithful companion that does everything for you no matter what for a long time. You want to set up your relationships with people to be that. You've provided value over and over again for free, you know, and they see that you care. You made the comment to me, you know, once I got to know you, you really care. You really genuinely want to help, right?
you do.
There you go. To a fault. Okay,
To a
so
fault.
you know, all right.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
okay.
But that's why I always partner, and I always have some people that go for the close, that do what's called the Doberman or the there's the what the
So you're saying you need to be a little bit of a mutt. You need to be a
kinda,
Doberman
or
sometimes,
partner.
a
Always
Labrador,
partner. Yeah, exactly.
right? Okay.
Yeah. There's the poodle too. The poodle is like the really well-dressed person in a suit who comes in all like, oh my God, look at how cute. All right.
Okay.
Moving on.
It can also go wrong because you bid the job, believe it or not, too low,
Yeah.
which most people don't understand, and too high.
Yeah.
Why won't you get the job if you bid it too low?
People are scared. They think there's
What are they
something
scared
wrong
of?
with you.
Why they think, why are you so cheap?
Why are you so cheap?
Why is this so inexpensive? Is this decision going to come back to bite me in the butt later?
Totally.
So what we like to do is to be a little bit under the highest bid. And this gets really tricky because everybody bids
I
differently.
use a slightly different technique.
Tell me your trick.
I use we're so damn expensive. And it works in a certain context, but it doesn't. And not by expensive, unfairly expensive. Because keep in mind, you know, it's all relative. Pricing is extremely relative to context and to who you're selling to and
Right.
to what the job is. But it didn't work sometimes.
Yes.
And in a bad economy, it's not a great closing technique or it's not a great pricing technique. But you're right. I think that the being right a little bit underneath the highest bid is not a bad thing.
Yeah. There's this other thing, Gene, you were just talking about this, and I wasn't planning on elaborating on it, but here I am. When you're sending a bid, especially if you're a single bid and you're dealing with a smaller client, because we know that some of you guys out there don't have these big corporate clients that you're
Yeah.
working with,
Yeah.
and you say to a mom and pop, shop somewhere, oh, this logo is going to cost you $15,000. They're going to fall out of their chair. They
That's
are.
what I mean. That's the nuclear
So-
bid.
Yeah. So a dollar amount without context,
It's
it'll seem very
jarring.
high. It's very jarring. So you need to provide some kind of context. How can you do that?
You described a really good technique, the comparison. Like, look, this could cost. So there's what I call, and that's going back to figuring out to describe the value. Something that happens is if you're selling a logo, you're going to have that problem. If you're selling a better positioned business, a more professional looking business, I'll give you an example. Scratch It, who's one of our clients. We're sitting at a conference. A venture capital person is sitting next to the CEO. He sees the sticker for Scratch It, which I have one right here, and then he opens up the deck, the pitch deck. We don't know yet, but this person is the founder of a very design-focused company, previous company, one of his previous investments, and he says, "It's very sophisticated. Who designed this for you?" And he goes, "Well, this guy over here." And I'm having another conversation. And then he saw the first 3 slides, and already he was convinced, okay, you guys have something interesting. You have really, amazing design. So what you're selling is the value to Scratch It. Did the logo look Did the logo look good? It's priceless. If they're able to raise capital, if they're able to get sales. Oh, the other thing, you're selling to a client, and they think you're way bigger than what you really are because your identity and your design is like super tight, that's how you grow a business. Design is extremely valuable. So don't sell the design of the logo. Sell the building of the business to succeed. Totally different equation there.
All right. I have two little things I want to add to that, and then
Go
I think
for
we
it.
need to wrap up and
Yep.
possibly leave them with what we're going to talk about next week, right? There's this law of contrast. It's in the sales book. I think it's called Influence, right? The law of contrast. So if you'll notice this, let's just say in your mind you're thinking $15,000, right? I need to ask them for $15,000. And the client says, I only have $2,500. That throws you off your game completely because now $15,000 sounds like a gigantic amount of money.
It does, yeah.
So what I like to do is do the opposite.
Yeah.
Say, I've worked with clients and who've had budgets in the 7 figures all the way down to the low hundreds.
It's a great
But I would really love to work with you. So I'm going to make this happen, maybe for like $75,000. Is that something that, are you still, does that knock you off your chair?
Yeah.
So what they're thinking is, you have such a premium service that's worth so much money,
Yeah.
but you're actually going to bring it down. You're doing the opposite. So sometimes it actually hurts you
I do
to
that all
wait
the
for
time.
them to sell you the money,
Yeah.
okay? So before you even do a bid, you can say, in the past we've done jobs like this, and we're usually somewhere between $100,000 to $250,000, somewhere around there.
And you can adjust that
Is that
to your
number
own
going
size.
to? Is that number palatable to you? That's a trial close now.
Yeah.
So you're floating a number out
Yeah.
to gauge the temperature before you do any real work. Let's just say in your mind you could not touch this job for less than 150. Let's just say you would go bankrupt,
Yeah.
right? So by saying that, and then they're like, no, I know my client's not going to buy off on that. And you'll see this. This happens almost every single time, okay? That you ask the client, you have a budget in mind? Nope. Have no idea. What about last year? Nope, I have no idea. We're thinking about 100,000 to 150. Oh my God, that's too much money. All of a sudden, that mysterious number that they couldn't talk about has materialized.
I love
it's
that.
really weird. The next concept, so that was contrast, okay? The other thing is to make a value proposition. I think it's dovetailing into what you just said. $15,000 sounds like a lot, except for when you say, if you could spend $15,000 to make $150,000, would you spend that money? And most rational people would say, I would do that deal all day long.
Exactly.
So you
Those are
have to
great.
tie what you're doing to a value. So if designing a video or filming a video for them or making them a brochure, a new logo, helps them to increase their business by X percentage, that's what it's worth. We talked about this before. It's not about putting a price against what you do in physical hours, but in terms of what the real value
what
of
it's
what you
worth,
do is.
yeah.
So
And we brought up two big things. So we always open cans of worms when we talk about this, especially
okay.
in front of designers.
Cans of worms are good.
So we brought up two issues that one just came up there. One is the ability for the person to talk about money at that scale. Me and you have it because we're comfortable in our experience in business.
What is
Not
that?
everybody's comfortable throwing that stuff out in the conversation. They don't even talk about it. That's one. So let's leave it at that for a second. But the other one is that things are changing. Now we're having to price things like social media campaigns, and we have to price things out like little video versus $150,000 jobs. That's why I don't like the word job anymore. That the problem is happening that everything is becoming really granular and really quantifiable. Like the impact.
Oh,
of
now
what
you're
you
opening
do.
up another can of worms.
Right.
We're talking about metrics.
Now I'm talking about metrics.
Okay, don't talk about that.
No, but what are the trends? Where are we going in the industry? And what is it that's going to happen to us?
I see what you're doing.
You see what I'm doing?
I see what you're doing.
The challenge is not how we've done it in the past, me and you. The challenge is how are we going to do it in the future and what's driving that?
I see. You sacrificed the pawn for my queen.
Yes.
Check. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we didn't say this at the head of the show, but this is our kind of weekly webisode, and we focus on the business of design, the design of business. If you can't talk about money with your clients, you have no business in being in business. Just understand
Damn.
that. All right? So,
Chris Doe just slammed you.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Yep.
Jose? So we're going to talk about...
Next week we're going to talk about basically what are the trends that are driving how we do our
Right.
businesses. I mean, web,
I'm
motion.
excited to talk to you about that.
What are the trends?
Okay.
It's a, by the way, crazy conversation.
Good. I'm
So we'll see
looking
you
forward
guys
to it
next
because I
week.
have no idea what that means. All right?
All right.
Okay.
So let's keep on talking.
We've
because
been
that's what we're
talking.
supposed to be
That's-
talking. Go crazy at some point. The final connection point, closing the sale, is about whether you are the right person. I'm not talking about the company. You are the right person. Keep in mind, the work is getting done by people.
If you could spend $15,000 to make $150,000, would you spend that money? And most rational people would say, I would do that deal all day long.